I did not wait. That is the part most people get wrong when they hear this story. The part where they assume I spent days or weeks quietly collecting evidence, building a case, planning some perfect moment to confront her with undeniable proof and watch her defenses crumble under the weight of my preparation. They imagine I was strategic about it, careful, that I let the knowledge sit inside me while I pretended everything was normal so I could gather more information before making my move. But that is not what happened. That is not even close to what happened. The moment I saw the message, I asked her about it, immediately, without thinking, without planning, just a direct question born from the particular kind of shock that bypasses your brain's ability to calculate consequences and goes straight to your mouth. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, face up, screen lit, and I was not even trying to look at it, which is the part that still bothers me 3 years later, because it means I cannot even claim I was suspicious, cannot say I had a feeling or that something had been off and I was finally checking. I was just walking past the counter on my way to get water, completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, and the screen lit up with a notification, the way screens do 100 times a day. And normally, I would not have registered it at all, except this time my eyes caught the preview text before my brain could decide not to care. 3 words. I miss last night. No name attached, just a number I did not recognize, a message short enough to fit entirely in the notification preview, which meant I didn't even need to unlock her phone to read the whole thing. It was just there, complete, undeniable. I stared at it for maybe 3 seconds. Long enough to understand what I was looking at, but not long enough to process what it meant, not long enough for the implications to fully land. And in those 3 seconds, I heard her in the other room, talking to someone on her own call, her voice light and easy, laughing at something, sounding exactly like someone for whom everything was completely normal. My name is Aaron Mitchell, and I had been with Claire for 6 years, living together for 4 of those in an apartment in Austin that we had chosen together because it had good light and was close to the park where we used to run on Sunday mornings, back when we still did things like run together on Sunday mornings. We were not engaged, but we talked about it sometimes in the vague way people talk about futures they assume are inevitable, and I had genuinely believed up until approximately 3 seconds earlier that we were fine. Not perfect, not movie-level passionate, but fine, in the sustainable way that long-term relationships are fine when you have worked through the early intensity and settled into something calmer. I picked up her phone, not to unlock it, just to hold it, to make the thing I had seen feel more real. And then I walked into the living room where she was sitting on the couch with her laptop open, finishing up a work call, and I stood there holding her phone until she noticed me. She looked up, smiled, completely relaxed, completely unaware that the next sentence out of my mouth was going to change the trajectory of the entire evening and probably a lot of evenings after that. I said her name, just her name, but in a tone that made her expression shift slightly, made her realize this was not a normal interruption. Then I held up the phone and asked who the message was from. No anger in my voice, no accusation, just a question. Because in that moment I still did not know what I was dealing with, and some part of me, some stupid, optimistic part, was still hoping there would be an explanation that made sense, something innocent that I had misinterpreted. She looked at the phone, then at me, and for just a second, maybe less than a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Recognition, the particular expression people get when they realize they have been caught at something. But then it disappeared so quickly I almost thought I had imagined it. And then she smiled. Not nervously, not defensively, not with any of the reactions I had been unconsciously bracing for, just a normal smile, calm and steady, like I had asked her what she wanted for dinner. She asked where I had seen the message, not "it is not what you think" or "I can explain" or any of the things people say when they are trying to recover from being discovered, just a simple question about how I had come across it. I told her. Kitchen counter. Notification lit up the screen. I was not looking for anything. She nodded slowly, like I had just confirmed something she had been wondering about. Then she stood up, walked over to where I was standing, and took my phone from my hand. Not aggressively, not in a way that felt like she was trying to hide evidence, just calmly taking her phone back. She locked the screen, set it down on the coffee table, and sat back down on the couch. Then she said, "Okay." That was it. Just "okay." like we had just agreed on something procedural. I stood there trying to catch up to what was happening, because in my head I had already been preparing for a different conversation, for denials or excuses or explanations that I would have to pick apart, for some version of, "This was not what it looked like," or "You are misunderstanding." I had been ready to push back against resistance, but she was not resisting, she was not doing anything, and somehow that made everything worse. I asked what okay meant. She looked at me with that same calm expression and said it meant I had seen the message. I waited, because that could not possibly be the complete answer. There had to be more, an explanation, a context, something. But she just sat there, and then she said something that I still think about almost every day. "I was wondering when you would notice." That sentence does something to you when you hear it in a moment like that. It rewrites the entire situation, because it means this was not a mistake. It was not a slip-up or bad luck or a moment of carelessness. The message had been there, available, accessible, on a phone she left unlocked on counters and tables all the time, and she had known I would eventually see something. She had been waiting for it. And suddenly the question was not, is she cheating on me? The question was, how long has she wanted me to find out? I sat down across from her because my legs did not feel steady anymore, and for the first time since I had walked into the room, I did not feel angry. I felt late, like I had missed something important, something that had been happening right in front of me while I was busy assuming everything was fine. I asked how long. She did not hesitate, did not look away or try to soften it. She just said, "Long enough." Not a specific timeline, not 3 months or since February, or any answer that would have given me something concrete to hold on to, just long enough, which meant it was not recent, meant this had been going on for a while, meant I had been living in a version of our relationship that was already outdated. Then she said something else that made it worse. "I did not think you would ignore it this long." Ignore, that word stuck with me, because it implied that there had been other signs, other moments, other things I should have noticed before this, and she was right. When I thought back over the past few months, when I let myself actually look at the pattern instead of just accepting the surface of our daily routine, I could see them. The distance, the way conversations had gotten shorter and less substantial, the fact that we had stopped making plans more than a few days out, the way she had stopped asking me about my day in any detail, had stopped offering details about hers. Small things individually, but together they formed something I had chosen not to see. The conversation that followed was not the one I expected. She did not defend what she had done. She did not apologize. She did not try to make excuses or blame me or do any of the things that would have given me something clear to react to. She explained. Not the affair itself, not the mechanics of who, when, or how many times. She explained why she had started pulling away, why she had stopped trying to fix what was not working between us, why she had eventually looked for something else somewhere else without ending things with me first. And the hardest part, the part I am still not entirely sure how to process, is that most of what she said made sense. She talked about how we had stopped actually seeing each other somewhere around year 4, how we had become roommates who shared a bed but not much else, how she had tried to bring it up a few times in vague ways and I had either not noticed or had brushed it off as normal relationship evolution, as the natural cooling that happens when intensity turns into stability. She said she had felt lonely in the apartment we shared, in the bed we slept in conversations that should have mattered but had stopped penetrating past surface level. I wanted to argue with her, wanted to point out that she could have been more direct, could have insisted on couples therapy, could have done literally anything other than start sleeping with someone else, and she agreed. She said yes, she could have done those things and she chose not to, and that was on her. But she also said that by the time she made that choice, she had already decided the relationship was over. She just hadn't told me yet. And that, more than the affair itself, was what hurt.
the realization that I had been living in something that had already ended, walking through the motions of a relationship that only existed in my perception. She had left months ago. She just hadn't moved out. I asked why she had stayed if she felt that way, why she had not just broken up with me directly instead of letting me find out like this. She said she did not know, that she had been waiting for the right moment, or maybe waiting for courage, or maybe just waiting for me to notice that something was wrong so she wouldn't have to be the one to say it out loud. She said that was cowardly. She said it anyway. By the time we finished talking, it was past midnight. We had been sitting in that living room for almost 3 hours, and I realized something I had not expected to realize. This was not the moment everything broke. This was the moment I finally noticed it was already broken. The message was not the cause of the end, it was just the proof. She moved out 2 weeks later, not in anger, not with drama, just with the quiet efficiency of someone who had already been planning this mentally for a while. We split things fairly. We didn't fight about furniture or deposits or who got which kitchen appliances. It all felt strangely civil for something that should have been devastating. I see her sometimes now, across a coffee shop or at a mutual friend's party. We nod at each other, we don't talk. And I think about that night sometimes, about the message I was not supposed to be looking for, about the conversation that followed, about the strange relief I felt when it was finally over, even though I had not known I needed it to be over. And I think about that phrase, "I was wondering when you would notice," because it means for months, maybe longer, she had been leaving pieces of evidence, dropping hints, waiting for me to care enough to look closely, and I hadn't. I had been comfortable. I had been assuming. I was wrong. People ask me sometimes if I would have preferred not to see the message, if I wish I had walked past the counter 2 seconds earlier or later and missed the notification entirely. And the answer is no, because finding out the way I did, sudden and unplanned and impossible to ignore, was probably the only way I was going to find out at all. Left to my own devices, I would have kept not noticing. I would have kept living in a relationship that had ended without me. The message was not a betrayal. It was a mercy. Bad timing maybe, but mercy nonetheless. Because sometimes you don't find out when something starts, you find out when it's already over, and the only thing you can do is decide whether you're going to be angry about not noticing sooner or grateful that you finally noticed at all. I chose grateful. It took a while, but I got there.